Good morning, students. Um, we are starting our class today from where we have stopped yesterday. Okay, it was yesterday's class was just an introduction of how the approximation methods in FEM works. Okay, how what are the approximation methods that we take into consideration, and what exactly is the Rayleigh-Ritz method of or Rayleigh-Ritz approach for our formulation for our this finite element analysis. Okay, so I'll start sharing my screen with you now. One of you, could you please confirm me that you're
Yes,
able to see the screen?
yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And if students have added now, yeah, there are 71 of you. We do not have a moderator today. So if you have any doubt, you please keep your hands raised. I'll come back to you in between and we'll clear all the doubts together. Okay? Please do not unmute yourself until and unless I ask you. Alright, that will create a disturbance. We'll start with the class today. We have done until what is potential energy and how is its equation taken, right? Is this where we stopped yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So a quick review of yesterday's class. One member from you have to tell me what is a strain energy, what kind of forces belongs to strain energy. I specifically told yesterday, and what type of forces or the potential energy is work potential. One has to tell me what is strain energy, and the other one has to tell me about work potential. Please keep your hands raised. I'll call you. But I need somebody to answer. Um, but without you answering, I'll not go forward today, because it's just yesterday that we have seen the class, and if you don't remember the yesterday's class, I need to wonder what will you remember from the first class. One of you, please put your hand raised. I'm waiting.
We have
Guys, I
discussed.
hope I asked you to raise your hand, please. I'll call you. You keep your hands raised. Okay, Shravanti. Yes, Shravanti, you can speak now.
We discussed about the method of analysis. There are four methods: direct approach, variational
No, no.
approach.
Did you come just now?
You
Shravanti, did you
said
come
about
just?
yesterday's class, no, ma'am. We have discussed
No, no.
all these.
No. My question is, what is strain energy? What kind of potential energies or what kind of forces will result in strain energy was my question.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, can you answer that?
I remembered only the equation: total potential energy is equal to the total strain energy and the work potential. And the
Okay.
potential energy is possessed by a body due to its virtue of its motion, and you gave by this even this equation. I remembered only that.
Okay. That's very frank of you. Very good. Any other? Any other who can tell me what is potential energy, strain energy in the equation of potential energy that is given yesterday? All right. It seems that nobody was that attentive yesterday then. Should I assume that? All right. Let's see. When I said you about total potential energy, I said total potential energy is the combination, when we have seen this, it is the combination of internal forces and the external forces. The summation of internal forces and the external forces will give you the total potential energy. Give you the total potential energy. So under this category, again I have mentioned you, when we have to speak about when we have to speak about the internal and external separately. In that case, when we have this U value, the total strain energy is due to the internal stresses that are created in the member, whereas the work potential is due to the external forces. So the division what the question what I asked you is to tell me about strain energy, is it related to internal or the external? So the answer is strain energy is related to internal forces, whereas our work potential belongs to external forces. So when I spoke to you about uh, deriving what is the potential energy equation individually, we need to understand what is strain energy and what is work potential for any structure. We need to derive it from the basics. All right. So the basic structure what we can consider in under an elastic body is a spring element. All right. So what we'll do is did we take this as equation 1 yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll continue with this. So after this, we will take what is the we will derive potential energy equation for a spring first. So if we derive potential energy for the spring, based on that, we'll try to go for what will be the potential energy equation or the derivation for a 3D body. All right. So we'll start with this. Look, this is a typical picture of a spring element. All right, a spring element whose stiffness is given by K. K is its stiffness. It has a total length of L. All right, and a load P is being applied at this end of the spring. All right, where it is not fixed. Okay, one side it is fixed, and due to this load, there is an extension in the member, that is U. So there are 4 different properties that are mentioned here. There is a spring, for that a load is applied, which is acting towards the gravity. All right. Now, for this constraint, if at all, the load P moves down by U. This is self-explanatory. When the load is applied in the other side of the spring or the free end of the spring, due to gravity, the load P, that spring is moving downwards, due to which there is an extension of U. All right. So what is happening? The spring is losing the capacity to do work. It is here the work done is due to the effect of gravity. All right, whatever the force we have applied to it, the effect is due to the gravity. So the work done by the spring, or the work that the capacity that is lost due to the gravity, that we have the equation as Pu. Therefore, the external potential energy, when I mention external potential energy, it means it is the work potential. So the work potential for the for a spring is given by minus Pu. Minus Pu is the work potential for the spring element. So we are done with the external constraint. That is the first point. When we have to come to the internal, that is the strain energy part. Let's see. When the load reaches equilibrium position after the extension of spring by U. See, the load is now acting not due to its effect but due to the gravity. All right. So there will be a point where it will reach to the equilibrium condition after giving certain extension to it. Now for that, the force in the spring will become Ku. F is equal to stiffness into this displacement. So the force in the spring is given by stiffness of the spring into the extension. F is equal to K into delta. That is the equation what we are trying to see here. All right. Now this is when the extension was U. But initially When there was no extension, see, when the extension was 0, the resisting force was also 0. Only when the extension has come into the picture, then it became K into U. Until then, it was 0. So when we go for the average force in the member, that is the force when it was in equilibrium to the force until it reached an extension U, both has to be taken into consideration. All right. So in that case, the average force due to the extension can be given by, first it was, who is that? Guys, I specifically told you, please do not disturb the class. While you enter, make sure you keep yourself muted. I'm very clear about this. Today, we don't have the moderator, doesn't mean you keep doing this. Okay? How much you disturb, that much will be lagging. So you have to understand. Alright, so now when it was 0, it is 0. When it is up to the extension U, it is KU. So the average force will be taken as from 0 to KU, it is 0 plus KU by 2. So this is the force, average force in the member. Alright, or if we can call it as internal resistance of the member. For that, now the energy stored in the spring due to straining. Simply, in simple words, if we have to speak, what is the strain energy of the spring? That is what we are trying to see. For that, it is average force into the extension. That is the energy stored in the member. As we saw in the work potential, it is force into extension minus Pu, because it was acting due to gravity. Alright, whereas the external constraint, if we take, it is minus Pu. Now when we take the energy stored in the spring due to the straining, it is average force into extension again. So what was the average force? It is Ku by 2, and the extension is U itself. So the total energy stored in the spring due to straining is given by half Ku into U. So simply it is Ku square by 2. I can call that also Ku square by 2. Now we have, for the spring element, we had what is work potential, we have what is total strain energy. So what will be the total potential energy of the spring is the summation of the strain energy plus, the summation of strain energy and the work potential. So this is the equation, which is, see, this is our strain energy, half Ku square, and this is our work potential. So this is the equation of total potential energy of a spring. All right. The reason behind telling each and every term, I can directly give you this equation also, but the reason behind telling this equation very specifically, dividing strain energy separately and dividing work potential separately, is because here there was only one load acting. Alright, it is not always that only one force will act in the structure. Alright, so for that part of the section, what we need to know how the equation is derived. I can directly give you the equation and tell that is the standard you have to follow. Alright, that's not the case. Alright, so if at all in the coming in today's class only, we will solve problems where only a spring structure will be given to you. Now taking this equation separately, strain energy equation separately, work potential separately, you will have to create potential energy equation for the given spring system all by yourself. All right. So if you have to do it all by yourself, we need to understand why it is Pu, why it is Ku square. That's the reason I've shown you it in division. All right. Please understand and remember the internal forces of internal potential energies are considered into the total strain energy, whereas the external, work done due to the external forces is work potential. So when you derive the equations also, please remember the pattern. All right. Are we clear until this point? Please take this as equation 2. Is it done? Guys, are you there in the class?
Yes, ma'am. It's clear.
Okay, today, I don't know, you people seem very dull. All right. We have 74 students now. So what we'll do, before you people sleep, it seems like you are very bored of the class. I will share a form with you. Hardly you have about 5 questions, that's all. I didn't prepare for more also. Hardly 5 questions until what we have completed today and what we have done yesterday. Alright? I have given you the form. Alright? I'm accepting the answers. Okay? Only 5 questions are given in the form. Alright? You have your notes. You're free to tell me. So it is 9:51 now. I will give you time until 9:56. 5 minutes. 5 questions. 1 minute for each question is huge time. That too, multiple choice. Go ahead and start filling the form, please. I'm taking it until 9:56, or better I'll turn that as 10 o'clock only. Until 10 o'clock, I'll accept the answers. So start filling it. Guys, did you get the form? Are you people really sleeping today?
Yes, ma'am, we got the form.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Start filling the form. I did not receive any responses yet. And I gave you time only till 10 o'clock. So by that time, how many members fill? Only those members can be seen. So make sure you start doing it fast. And every time you enter into Teams, make sure you are also signed in to your Office 365 ID. Only if you are signed in to your Office 365 ID along with the password that is given, then only you can fill the forms. Teams, if you have an app also, you can open. But to fill the forms, you need to be logged into your Office 365. See, the form does not have any responses yet. That is what it is showing me. Start filling the form, please. "76 students, and it's 9:54 already. I need your answers. And no wonder if I consider the attendance based on your forms also, because you people are not responding directly in the class. I may consider your responses for the form as your attendance. Choice is yours. Are you doing it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
one, two. Oh, completed. Huh? I did not get any responses. How come it is completed? Okay, 2 of them. 2 responses. Very good. Okay, thank you. I got answer from Mamta and Priyanka. Right. I'm waiting for the responses more. Three responses. Pravalika. Uma Maheshwarachari. Right. Good. Good, you people are attentive in the class. 5 more minutes for you to finish filling the form. See, understand all of you that filling the form is only to see how attentive you are in the class. Do not think that this will be marks anywhere. All right. But by any chance, if any internal or anything is not being conducted or something like that, I may, depending upon all the forms that are being submitted in every class or whenever it is given, depending upon that also marks might be considered. So fill it carefully. 14 responses, good. 4 more minutes and you people are 70. I have 76 attendees and only 14 responses. Not acceptable. Faster. 5 answers. You just have to look into your notes. You don't have to Google it also. If at all you missed yesterday's class and today also you didn't listen until now, then only it is difficult. 17 responses, good. Right. Please do not unmute. Guys, I gave you time only until that form will be open only until 10 o'clock. Okay, after that, even if you try to fill it, it will not give you the option to fill. Okay, only just 2 more minutes left. You have to do it a little bit faster, please. Okay, 2 more minutes left for us to start the class. 1 more minute now. He's finished filling the form. Vandana, you can unmute yourself and speak, or you can raise the hand. If you write in the chat, it will be difficult. Potential energy in a spring slide. Okay, I'll do that. As of now, I read your chat, but next time when you have anything to ask, all right, time is completed. So your chances to fill the form is also over. So we'll start with this class, right? Vandana, is this the slide you asked me?
No, ma'am. Previous one.
Previous slide, okay. Is this the one?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We are done with what is the we'll come back to the topic now. We are done with what is the total potential energy of the spring value. All right. So the reason behind considering the spring is the best example to understand the elastic property is the spring. All right, based on its material properties or the elastic nature, how it is made, and to the stiffness point also, we have considered the spring element. Now if the same concept has to be taken into account and to be uh, applied to the 3D element, how are we going to derive the strain energy and how are we going to derive the work potential is the question. All right, so we will start with considering a 3D body. Remember this figure? We have seen this in the body forces, boundary conditions, stress equilibrium equations, all those things we have considered this uh, element only. All right, from the whole 3D body, whatever we have, out of that, we have taken the elemental volume and then derived various equations. All right, do you remember this figure?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you have to turn back your notes where the stress equilibrium equations have begun. There I have given you what is the displacement components, what is the body forces acting. I have given you individual matrices for that. We had traction forces. We had a T matrix. So the surface traction forces we had the matrix for the point loads that are being applied, that is P. So PI. See, for this we had a different matrix. For traction force we had different matrix. For this elemental volume, whatever the body forces are acting, for that also I have given you different matrices. So we are considering those matrices in this derivation now. All right. Now see, consider a body of volume V is subjected to, first one, it is subjected to its own body forces. All right. Now those body forces, because it is a 3D element, we have considered previously also that we will have body force acting in X direction, body force acting in Y direction, body force acting in Z direction. That was the 3 by 1 matrix what we have seen. Okay. And the second we have is surface forces acting on the body. All right. As of now, we will only take into account the body forces and the surface forces. All right, where the point loads are applied, that we will come into later pictures. All right, as of now we will consider only body forces and the surface forces. So if you remember, this were the matrices that we have considered in the previous case also. If you were not there in the previous sessions, make sure you note them down. Okay. Now, what were the displacement components when we have seen there? In X direction, the displacement component was U, Y direction V, Z direction it was W. So we are going to consider the same thing over here. Let U, V and W be the displacement components in X, Y and Z direction respectively. All right. Now, then the potential energy of the external forces. When I'm talking about external forces, it directly indicates the work potential part. All right, is given by, see, this is the work potential equation you can find. See, work potential was minus, we saw previously. That is due to the external constraints, because we are considering the internal ones into the positive state. External WP was minus, right? So minus, we have body forces. Body force is taken in this category, body force and with respect to its displacement, body force with respect to its displacement, the direction I'm talking about, XB into U, YB into V, ZB into W. Now body force, when we take, it is to whole of the volume. So the integration is with respect to V. Similar condition when we are taking it for the surface, it is XSU, YSV, ZSW with respective ds. Okay. Because it is surface, it is not a 3D part, okay, to take 3 differentiations. All right. A surface you have to understand. Now we'll take that equation as C1. All right. We'll take that equation as C1. If at all I have to reduce it little more to understand, I can rewrite this equation as the matrix U transpose into the body force matrix. I can write it in this way also. All right. And this displacement matrix transpose into surface forces matrix. I have just rewritten the equation in the matrix form. All right. So this we can take that as C2. It is same, nothing different. If you see what we have taken in the previous case, U transpose or U matrix is UVW. The same thing. XB, X matrix, body force matrix is X, XB, YB and ZB, body force matrix. So we have just written it in the form of a matrix. So the whole thing here, see, I am giving you the matrices of U, XB and XS, just rewritten. So the whole, both the equations together, we can consider that as equation C. Are we clear with the external forces acting in the body? When it comes to point loads, we will include the point loads also. As of now, we are not considering the point loads. If in the problem, point loads is given, for this equation only, the summation of point loads will also be added. Okay, this is equation C. Can I move forward? Shall we see the strain energy part?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right. We will see the strain energy part now. Right. When we are seeing the strain energy, that is the internal condition, we will have to go with respect to the stress. As I said, internal potential energy, when we have to derive, we have to understand the concept of stresses acting inside the body. All right. To understand that, see, we have about we have six different stresses acting in the 3D body. All right. We are not going into all those values. First, what we'll do, we will see along x direction first. Depending upon that, we will go forward for the. Depending upon that, we will go for z, y, z, all those phases. So here, if you see, to find the internal energy due to straining, we will consider one by one stress components as shown in the figure. Here it is, the figure shows you the stress component only due to the stress in x direction. Please understand. All right. The stress only under x direction we are considering, but that is acting on the whole element. Dx, dy, dz, it is acting on to the whole volume. Sigma y also will act in whole volume. Sigma z also will act in full volume, all into the complete volume. All right. So we'll consider what is happening due to the sigma x first to understand what is y and z. It is like similar applications. All right. So one by one stress component as shown in the figure, which shows the typical element of dy by dx by dz subjected to sigma x. Stress component sigma x. So what I find here also will be with respective sigma x only. Okay. Work done by sigma x stresses in the element, that is the strain energy, is given by, you can check this, sigma x dy dz, one direction is taken, this part. This is the equation that is done. Stress. Please mute yourself, whoever have come.
Madam, excuse me, madam. Screen
Yes.
share aitale, madam.
Anybody have the same problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Screen is not shared.
Yes, ma'am.
Your S, does it mean screen is seen or not seen?
Not sharing. Screen is not sharing, ma'am.
Okay. Wait. I'm resharing it. Check now.
Okay, ma'am. It's
Are you
shared.
able to see the screen?
We are able to see, ma'am.
Okay, all of you. Whoever
Yes,
was
ma'am.
not able to see till now. Okay, thank you very much. All right, see now in this direction, if we take the total work done by the stresses sigma x in the element is given by sigma x dy dz in the side of dy dz is into dou u plus differentiation of dou u by dou x into dx minus sigma x into dy dz dou u. All right, that will be the work done due, that is the expression for work done due to sigma x. The figure is directly showing what is the work done. See, due to this sigma x, we have this value that is in dy dz direction. All right, and if at all we have to consider the total work done for this one due to the internal stress, this will be the new one. So if we have to take from this has to be detected. So sigma x dy dz, this value minus this value, that is what is the simple statement. All right, so if we solve that equation and reduce it, what happens? Sigma x dy dx dou u will be gone. So we are left with sigma x and this part into dx, dy and dz. You just have to reduce it. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Now, if we clearly see this part of the section, I'll take another ink. It just got combined into the color. I'll take another ink. See, this part of the section, if we clearly see, it is change in the displacement or the displacement happening in the member. All right, that is directly indicating our strain value. See, du by dx is our strain in x direction. All right, and so if we substitute this part in our value, whatever the equation we got, if we substitute, we are going to get the work done as sigma x, work done by here, work done by stress in x direction is given by sigma x into dx, d epsilon x into dx dy dz. The thing is, in place of this, I have just given dou sigma x because this part is sigma epsilon x. All right. Now, as the strain increases from 0 to final, we have seen in the spring case also, at when the strain was 0, what was the force or due to the internal, what is the internal force, and when the strain is increased to u, what it was, we have taken the average. Now also what is the constraint here? It is the value when it is 0 from the value where it increased to the final value of our strain. So our integration will be from 0 to epsilon x, the strain, the complete strain in x direction. All right, That is given by dx, sigma x, d epsilon x. What is this dv here? Is our volume. Dx into dy into dz indicates the volume because that is the element what we have considered. Got the point? Guys, are we clear till now?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone who have any doubt until this point? If you don't have, it is like we are done with the external constraint and the internal constraint here. So now this is only with respect to the x direction. That is what I said you. But how many stress components are there in a 3D body? How many stress components? Please check with the stress matrix that is given to you in the first class.
6.
What are they? నేను ఆల్రెడీ ఇక్కడ 6 వేసాను కాబట్టి 6 అనేస్తారు బాగానే ఉంటుంది. What are those 6 components is the requirement now? Anyone? What are those 6 stress components we have in a 3D body?
Sigma x, sigma z, sigma y.
Okay, okay, next. What those 3 are normal stresses. What are the other 3 we have?
Shear stresses.
Okay, shear stresses in YZ, XZ and XY. All right,
Y.
very good. Now in a thank you Chandana. In a 3D element we have about 6 stress components. Are these the stress component equations we have seen? If you were not there in the first class, thank you. If you were not there in the first class, please note it down now. When it is about a 3D body, the stress matrix or the stress component matrix is given by this one, right? Now we have to consider the whole of that constraint. So whatever the equation we got here has to be considered with respect to the whole 6 components. So the total strain energy in the element is given by this equation. Please check you can understand. In x direction we got 0 to sigma x, epsilon x, sigma x into d epsilon x. 0 to epsilon y, it is sigma y into, this is d epsilon y. Next 0 to sigma z, epsilon z, sigma z into d epsilon z. So that's the whole equation. We need to, that is the total strain energy in the element due to the internal stresses. Did you note down the equation? You have to do it a little bit fast, okay? We have to solve a problem today. If not, I am sure if at all I don't solve a problem today, what all is told today, you'll definitely forget it for the next class. And for I have to explain this and I have to come to the problem again. Today we are going to do problem. So you have to make it fast. Are we done with this equation? Are we done with this equation? Guys, I need your answer, please.
No, ma'am.
Do it fast
No,
then.
ma'am.
Seeing at least the equation, you should be able to write it by your own. You know what all we have. If at all when it is about tau yz, the relation, the respective shear strain is gamma yz. So you just have to put that and you have to get the equation. Right, you have to complete the equation. Let us take this equation as equation number D. Equation number C was our work potential, what we have seen in the previous case. Let us take this as equation number D. Alright, we'll go forward. Let U naught be the strain energy per unit volume. Then from the equation D, this was our equation D if you remember. From equation D, if we are indicating U naught is the strain energy, this will become our equation. Here it was integration. I am for the equation where dV was there. This was U naught. For that, I have the strain energy per unit volume. I have considered the per unit volume constraint, and the equation will end up, that is for the integration, the differentiation integration is solved now. So by solving the integration, we have reached to this point. All right. This is one point. I can take this as equation number E. This is one case. But without looking into this case also, if at all I know du naught is a strain energy component of a 3D structure. My conscious know that for a 3D I have 3 stresses, that is in X, Y and Z direction, and 3 shear stresses in the respective faces, because I know I can also apply chain rule. Okay. So for U naught, if I apply the chain rule in X direction, in Y direction, in Z direction, which is normal in condition, XY, YZ and ZX in the shear part. If at all I apply chain rule, I get this as my equation. Alright, I'll take equation number E. I will write this equation as F. The previous was equation number E. Now, looking at both the equations, if we compare the equation E with our equation F, if you clearly see this part of the section, everywhere in the every element, this part of the section can be directly seen as the stress component. We are trying to compare. We are trying to compare both the equations here. Is it not? Is it not the similar one?
Similar.
So what I can reterm it as, by looking into the chain rule of differentiation is also true, and what equation we got is also true. So when both of those equations are compared, I can directly take this as differentiation differentiation of strain energy with respect to its strain in that direction indicates the stress value. So that is the conclusion where we reached. If you clearly see, differentiation of strain energy per unit volume with respect to its strain in the direction is equal to its stress in the corresponding direction. All right, it may be shear, it may be normal. Okay, are we clear until this point? I need one yes. One yes is enough.
Yes,
Are we
ma'am.
clear until this point? Okay, very good. Now, therefore, we can conclude that the first derivative of strain energy, if you have seen in the previous case, the first derivative, we are not going for the double derivation. The first derivative of the strain energy per unit volume with respect to its strain component gives the corresponding stress component. That is what we have seen in the previous case. In the equation, I didn't give the equation number. Okay. Comparing E and F, we have got this one. So we can write that as the first derivative of strain energy per unit volume with respect to the strain component is equal to its corresponding stress component. So I can rewrite this term directly, not with respect to X or Y or Z, X, Y, Y, Z, taking all those directions aside, I can directly compress that complete equation into this term. You can think this as a matrix term. All right. So first derivative of the strain energy with respect to the strain component is equal to its corresponding stress component. I've just rewritten the complete equation. All right. let us take this equation as G. Now, this was for the element. If at all I have to consider for the whole of the body, what should I do? Whatever the small term we have considered, we have to integrate it so that it will be applicable for whole of the structure. Okay, integrating it, I'll reach to this point. This is our strain energy equation for the 3D body. Alright, take this as equation number 3. After I integrate and reach to this point, my answer will be, see, there are some textbooks where this is rewritten as half of sigma transpose into epsilon. Both are one at the same. It is just that transpose is given to sigma and epsilon is taken to the other side. Alright, keeping like this only, epsilon into sigma transpose, if you do that, that is not right. Okay, you have to matrix multiplications, how it goes, you know. All right, if at all in any textbook, if you see that transpose is given to stress is also right, but the epsilon will be, the strain matrix will be to the other side of the matrix. All right, are we done with equation number 3? Are we done with equation number 3? Guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Now, therefore, to get the total strain energy of the solid, you should integrate, U should be integrated. This one, U should be integrated over the entire volume. Here it was with respect to the element what we have considered. If at all, it has to be taken into account for the whole solid structure. It has to be taken with respect to volume. It has to be integrated with respect to volume. If at all I integrate it with respect to volume, substituting the value, I'll end up to this point. That is the equation for the total strain energy of this solid member. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now what we have done, we are done with what is the value of potential energy, we know what is the value of the strain energy, we know. So now it is time to combine both of them to find out the total potential energy value. All right, now for the quick review, see here in this equation, that is why to know I have written in this form, half of sigma T epsilon. Previously it was epsilon T into sigma. So both are same. So for linear elastic material, the strain energy per unit volume in the body, it is about the whole structure, is given by half of sigma T into epsilon. Total strain energy is the integration of the strain energy per entire volume. All right, this is what we have seen. Now work potential is given by this one here. If you see, in the previous case I told you that we did not consider body forces. That is why we had only surface traction, and with respect to the F, here F indicates our body forces. All right. So body forces, surface traction, and also point loads. So I have taken 3 different external forces that might act in the structure. This is exactly for the 3D body we have seen till now. Okay, this is the entire work potential. Strain energy also we saw. So we'll take this as equation number 4. Therefore, the total potential energy is the combination, summation of the total strain energy and the work potential. So this is my final equation. We'll take this as equation number 5. This is the total potential energy equation for a 3D elastic body. Please remember, the previous one what we have seen was the total potential energy equation for a spring element. From that, we have taken into consideration for a 3D body, and this is the total potential energy equation for a 3D body. Okay, so we have two different equations for two different type of structures or the elements. Spring element is different and this one is different. Are we done till now? Are we done till now?
Yes,
If you are
ma'am.
done, please take a note here. Whatever the work potential we have considered is for this conservative system, we did not consider which direction the external forces are acting. It is irrespective of the path that is taken. Okay, here we are not considering the path. You can take a note of that, please. Okay, so that is why I said you, when it is about the approximation methods, strict rules are not that applicable, or we might make a minute considerations everywhere. Okay, if you are done with this, when we have to go into the Rayleigh-Ritz method, Rayleigh-Ritz method completely works on the principle of minimum potential energy. Any one of you, did you hear what is the principle of minimum potential energy previously? Because you know what is potential energy, you must have heard about this. Anyone? Anyone? If it is a yes, let me know. If it is a no, then also let me know so that I can continue myself. So the whole of 82 members who are present in the class, does it mean you people are sleeping? I'm asking you, if it is a
No,
yes, then also tell.
no,
If it is a
ma'am.
no, then also tell. Okay. That was good enough, no? We don't have to waste time. Now, Rayleigh-Ritz method works on the principle of minimum potential energy. You write that statement. I'll give you the definition or the statement of minimum potential energy. Write down. Rayleigh-Ritz method works on the principle of minimum potential energy. Now, this is the principle of minimum potential energy. For all the conservative systems of all kinematically admissible displacement fields, those corresponding to equilibrium extremize the total potential energy. If the extremum condition is a minimum, the equilibrium state is stable. This is the principle of minimum potential energy. I'm giving you 1 minute. Please write it down as fast as you can. As soon as you write, you give me a yes, please. Or at least a done, ma'am. And whichever terms I have mentioned it in green color, please underline them. Kinematically admissible displacement fields, underline that. Extremize, underline that. And the condition minimum, underline that. Done? You're taking long.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very well. Here we have a term called kinematically admissible displacement field. Kinematically admissible displacement field. Ever heard of this? Ever heard of this word? See, when it is about a minimum potential energy principle, or the minimum potential energy when we consider for any system, for any conservative system, this is applicable for kinematically admissible displacement fields only. Now, what is this kinematically admissible indicates? The displacement fields that are those that satisfy single valued nature of displacements and the boundary condition. See, if I give a value for u, suppose displacement u at a point x comma y comma z, 2 comma 3 comma 4, I have my displacement value as 3. U is equal to 3 at x is equal to x at a point 2 comma 3 comma 4. If that is my constraint, I'll write it down here, you'll better understand. See, if at all, because u is a function of x comma y comma z, because a 3D body, function of that is u is equal to 4 at x comma y comma z I have, so I'll give maybe in x direction 1 comma 2 comma 3. At this particular point, the u value is 4. That is the kinematically admissible displacement field. That is, it will have a single valued nature. It means that for this particular point of u x comma y comma z, or 1 comma 2 comma 3, u is 4. That's all. It will not have any other value at this particular point. At some other point, the value may be different. At 2, 3, 4, maybe the value of u would be 4. But it is like for 1, 2, 3, there will not be an other u value given to it. That is the point you have to understand. Single valued nature. It will not have multiple values of displacement at one particular point. As simple as that. All right. Now for this type of displacement fields, it is telling that the corresponding equilibrium extremizes the potential energy. When it is about extremizing condition, it means d pi by d of that value may be differentiate. If at all we are differentiating with respect to displacement, d pi by du is equal to 0. That is what it means, extremize the condition. All right, we remember this. If at all dou m by dou x, yeah, is equal to f. Remember this equation anywhere? Remember this equation anywhere? Shear force diagrams and bending moment diagrams, are you not aware of them? Differentiation of moment will give you the shear force. That is all. That also you forgot? Very well. See, I cannot come back to you with all the terms that you keep forgetting. All right. When it is about extremizing a particular element property, extremizing that. Now here what it is telling, for the conservative system, kinematically admissible displacement fields, those corresponding to equilibrium, extremize the potential energy, because pi is our potential energy. When it is differentiated with respect to any variable, say x, or I'll call it as u, any variable, when it is 0, extremized condition, all right, at that condition it is called, it is stable. If this extremum condition is the minimum value, this condition is called a stable condition. This is our principle of minimum potential energy. All right. Now I said you Rayleigh's method is based on the minimum potential energy principle of minimum potential energy. Now we have seen for the continuum, for the total continuum of the 3D body, what we have seen till now, the total potential energy pi in the equation 4, please get back to it, in the equation 4 can be used for finding approximate solution. Now was it equation 4 or yeah, equation 5, please pardon me for that, equation 5. This is equation number 5, please. Equation number 5 can be used for finding approximate solution. All right. The Rayleigh's method involves construction of assumed displacement fields. Here we need to have a variable out of which variable the differentiation is possible for the potential energy. We need a variable. So what is Rayleigh's method doing is, it is assuming the displacement field, the kinematically admissible values or the displacement field, it is assuming it. Okay, assuming and giving you the equation. So when it comes to the direct field constraints, what you have, whatever the displacement fields we have can be directly applied into that equation. All right. Now assumed displacement fields as like this. In x direction it is sigma ai phi I. This one is the assumed displacement field in x, y and z direction. All right. That field, it is from I is taken from 1 to L. L comma m comma n is 1 point what we are considering. Okay. Same if you take in that is in the y direction, it is like this, and in w direction it is like this. Okay. When it is about what is I, what is j and what is k, it is the point where, or the node points where we are considering. Okay. Now it is 1 to L, now L plus 1 to m, m plus 1 to n. So it is from 1 to point n, how many ever we might have. Okay, u, v and in w, that is the displacement components. We have seen u, v and w are the displacement components in x, y and z direction. So when it is taken u, the points are I. When it is v, it is j. When it is w, it is k. How it works, if you solve one problem, you can understand. Okay. Now these are the assumed displacement fields for the Rayleigh's method. Okay. Now for this assumed displacement fields, you can take that n greater than m greater than L, that is the constraint. Okay. For this assumed displacement field, what is the we have sigma a I and phi I. If at all I have to write for that, these u displacement components are taken in form of polynomial equations. Okay. So the function phi I are usually taken as polynomials. So u is written in this form. Because it is a 3D body, I have a1, a2, a3. U is in x direction. So it is 0, x, 1, x and x square. Polynomial equations we know, not new. So from the previous equation, what we saw for u sigma a I phi I, here what is happening? Phi 1 is 1, phi 2 is x, and phi 3 is x square. That is the polynomial equations what are considered. See, generally when problems are asked to solve as of now for your level, polynomial equations are sometimes given to you directly. Alright, the A equations, A and phi equations are directly given. If at all it is not given, we have to construct our polynomial equations by ourselves looking into the given system. So understanding what is u, what is phi, and what is the assumed displacement fields are important here. All right. So displacements u, v, and w must be kinematically admissible. These are assumed displacement fields, but because it follows minimum potential energy principle, minimum potential energy principle is applicable for kinematically admissible only. For what? Single valued displacements based on the boundary conditions. So whatever the displacements we have u, v, w must satisfy the specified boundary conditions. All right. So whatever, for any structure, whatever the boundary conditions is there, whatever the polynomial equations we take into account must satisfy the those boundary conditions. All right. Now what will happen? Whatever the potential energy equation we have, that potential energy equation is taken in terms of our assumed displacement fields. All right. Now applying them, I have to extremize my potential energy equation with respect to this assumed displacement fields. Okay. So here A, whatever the A we have, that is the variable. Okay. So when I have to extremize it, this will become my extremum condition. We'll take this extremum condition as our potential energy approach. Rayleigh-Ritz method for potential energy approach. Rayleigh-Ritz method is only doing one particular thing. It is just considering or assuming a particular polynomial sections for the displacement fields. For that, it is applying minimum potential energy principle and giving you the solution. All right. It is like a little bit confusion you might still have. All right. When you solve one problem, it will be cleared. All right. Are we done until this part? We'll solve a problem for you to understand it clearly. Are we done until now? All right. How many members are sleeping? Oh, the one yes is for the person who is sleeping. How many members are sleeping?
No, ma'am.
Oh, good.
No one, ma'am.
No one, ma'am. Okay, you are seeing
No,
everyone.
ma'am.
Vinod
Okay.
is sleeping,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Video call.
Okay. Let's not go with this. We'll continue with the class. If at all this part is done till now, you just have to remember, I'm giving you the gist. Rayleigh-Ritz method is doing only one thing. It is taking assumed displacement fields, all right, and applying principle of minimum potential energy to those fields, whatever it has assumed. All right. And because minimum potential energy principle says it is applicable for kinematically admissible displacements, so whatever the assumed fields we have should be kinematically admissible. So for that alone, we will extremize the condition, and we have to understand that boundary conditions has to be satisfied. So if you remember these three parts, it is like minimum potential energy, kinematically admissible fields, and satisfaction of the boundary conditions, we can solve the problem. All right, we'll start with the problem then. If you are done until this part, let us take this problem. Problem number 1. You don't need calces for this problem. This is like it is derivation all u's and q's and z's. So you don't need, as of now, you don't need your calculator. I previously said if these concepts have to be understood clearly, we need ourselves to be brushed up with numerical methods, no differentiations, integrations, calculus part. Okay, that we should be clear. So let's take this problem. This figure 1.1a shows a system of springs. So here it is about the springs. So we have seen what is the potential energy equation for springs. It is half ku square minus pu, if you remember. Alright, that part of the equation we are going to take into consideration. Here if you see in this problem, the equation for potential energy is, it is like it is served to you. It is given. Alright, in many cases only the spring system of springs figure will be given. You will not be you will not be provided with the equation of the potential energy. That is why I gave you the concept there. If you know the concept, you can construct the potential energy equation all by yourself. Okay, we have 10 more minutes. Please take this one faster. Are we done with the equation? You take the figure first, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. 1 yes. See, if we clearly see, the potential energy equation is given as half of K1 delta 1 square. That is C. Ku square, half Ku square is the potential and strain energy applied. So for this, we have about 4 springs, right? So for the 4 springs, this part of the section is our strain energy part, where half Ku square is taken into account. Now, considering the external, that is the work potential part, we have only 2 external forces applied. So F1 and F3. So this is the part of work potential. So we should know the division how it is given. Now for every delta 1 value, delta 2 value, delta 3 value and delta 4 value, in the question itself, they have mentioned that these are the extensions in the springs. Extensions in the sense, what we have seen in the derivation is U. Alright. So here they are termed as delta 1, delta 2, delta 3 and delta 4. Okay. Those are given by, see, delta 1 is given by Q1 minus Q2. Delta 1, this is my node 1. Delta 1 at extension node 1 is given by Q1 minus Q2. And delta 2, that is at node 2. Node 2 is given by Q2 alone. Okay. Now delta 3, that is at node 3. Node 3, the extension is given as Q3 minus Q2. Alright. And finally, for the fourth spring. Sorry, it was not for the node, it was for the spring. For spring 4. Spring 4, the extension is given by minus Q3. Alright. This is predefined for you. It is given in the problem. So as it is, we have to take for the solution. If all these constraints are not given to us, we have to be, capable enough to derive our own equation for potential energy, our own equations for the strains or the extensions. Okay, that is why concept, understand the concept was more important. Are we done till now? Are we done with this slide? I'm going forward. I need 1 yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I have this equation and I have what are delta 1, delta 2, delta 3 and delta 4 that are given here. What you do is, you substitute these values of delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, delta 4 in the above equation and rewrite it. Everyone. Substituting the values of delta, that is the extensions of 4 springs, in the given potential equation. in the given potential energy equation. Substitute that. See, when I'm explaining you the problem, make sure you are writing it as I'm explaining. All right, given, what is given to you. And next, what we are trying to do, from the given, we are substituting it into the given potential energy equation. Okay, if I substitute, I'll end up with this equation. Did you all get the same equation? You have to.
Clear, sir.
Sorry?
Substituted, ma'am.
Substituted, okay. Be a little bit clear, okay? So we will reach until this point. Now, here in this equation, we have the terms Q1, Q2, Q3 in whole of the equations, right? Now, what are those Q1, Q2, Q3 is? If you see in the figure, what is given to us, if you see in the figure, they are the extensions at the nodes, particular nodes, not the springs. Okay, at springs, what extensions we have were denoted by delta. Okay, we have 4 springs, but we have only 3 nodes. Okay, so individual nodes where the displacement happening is taken as Q1, Q3, Q1, Q2, Q3 respectively for nodes 1, 2 and 3. Okay, now what we'll do? We will consider the Rayleigh-Ritz method. What is Rayleigh-Ritz method? I told you. What is the Rayleigh-Ritz method final equation? What is Rayleigh-Ritz method's final equation? We have just done it. Not even 5 minutes is over.
Equation 5th, ma'am.
Equation 5? No, I'm asking about the extremum condition.
Dou pi by dou u is equal
D
to
phi by
d pi by dA
u.
is equal to 0, A1. That is the variable. If we see in this particular equation what we have, thank you for both of you who answered. In this equation, if we particularly see, our variable is our displacements at individual nodes. Our potential energy equation is the function of displacements at specific nodes. All right. So we need to minimize that pi with respect to the displacements at individual nodes. Got the point? So wherever the variables are there, you are individually differentiating that potential energy with respect to the individual variable. So at node 1, it is Q1. So what we have to do? First, we have to differentiate our potential energy equation with respect to Q1, the whole equation. Next, differentiate the potential energy equation with respect to Q2, the whole equation, whatever equation we have here. Next, we have to differentiate the potential energy equation with respect to Q3 because these three are our variables. So differentiation dou pi by dou qi should be equal to 0. This is the Rayleigh-Ritz method consideration. All right. Now, because we have only 3 nodes, we have I is equal to 1, 2 and 3. So we have to try now. First one I have done. You have to do the other two. Delta pi, dou pi by dou q1. See this one, you just have to differentiate this equation with respect to q1 once, next with respect to q2, next with respect to q3. All right. With differentiation with respect to q1, that is the answer I have got. You have to differentiate with respect to q2 now. And you should give me the answer. Differentiation, partial differentiation, please. So it is not very difficult. Wherever Q1 terms are there only it will be there. Other terms will become 0. Where Q2 terms are there, only those terms will be there. Q1 and Q3 terms will become 0. If you are differentiating with respect to Q3, partial differentiation, only the Q3 terms will be present. The terms of Q1 and Q2 will become 0. You have to make it fast. We are left only with 10 more minutes, out of which last 2 minutes I have to take the attendance. If anyone is done, please you can unmute yourself and you can answer. Any one member, that will help the others.
Done, ma'am. K2, Q2.
Okay, who is answering? Who is answering?
Shravanti, ma'am.
Okay, Shravanti, you are telling the second equation now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
K2, Q2 plus K3, Q3 minus Q2.
I have given you the equation, please check. You got only 2 terms. How about the other one? See, in this equation, if I differentiate with respect to Q2, Q2 is associated with K1 also. So K1 term will also be there in the picture. Alright. Q2 is associated with K2. So K2 will also be there in the picture. Q2 is associated with K3. So K3 term also will be there in the picture. K4 is not related to Q2 anywhere. So this will become 0. Here Q2 is not there. So this will become 0. Here Q2 is not there. So this will become 0. So you will have terms of K1, K2 and K3 if you are differentiating with respective Q2. So that's the second equation. Any one member about the third equation other than Shravanti, because Shravanti already answered.
K3 into Q3 minus Q2 plus K4
Your name
into
please.
Q2.
Your name please.
Uma Maheshwar, ma'am.
Okay, Uma Maheshwar, please answer.
K3 into Q3 minus Q2
Right.
plus K4 into Q3 minus F3.
Exactly. Thank you very much. The others, it is given on the screen. You can cross check. Very good, Uma Maheshwar. Now we had only 3 variables in the member, and with respect to 3 variables, if I partially differentiated the potential energy equation that is given, and because I have to minimize it, that is equated to 0. Alright, so I'm getting these 3 equations. So not giving it finite changes and taking the Q terms common, if I have to rewrite this equation in form of K into Q, that is stiffness into extension is equal to force. That is my displacement method equation. F is equal to K into U. So if I have to rewrite this equation and make it into matrix form, okay, see, to put the same in the matrix form of KQ is equal to F, stiffness into extension is equal to force. This is the matrix form I get. The same equation what you have previously, the 3 equations what we have got here, it is just rewritten in the form of a matrix. Please cross check and please note down the matrix. We are losing time. Okay, please note down the matrix. You can cross check. You have the equations with you. You just have to rewrite them. Are we done? We'll take this as equation number 1, the matrix form what we have got. Or you can take this also as equation number 1. That is also not an issue. I'm taking it as 10, sorry. You can take this as equation number 1 or you can take this as equation number 1. Anything is one and the same because that is the equation form, that is the matrix form. Alright. Now, uh, this derivation is from the potential energy approach of Rayleigh's method. But what is the proof that potential energy approach will give us the answers that are actually expected how the structure will behave? All right. For that, what we can do is the same problem, if we solve it with the direct approach. I said you direct approach indicates you just have to directly take the stiffness of the individual spring. Okay, if that we have to do, will that answer also give you the same solution is the question. Then if at all it gives you the same solution, what will become easy is like potential energy equation we have to form. We have to do the partial differentiation with respect to whatever variables we have, and we'll directly get the matrix. This will become more easy than going for individual nodes, drawing the free body diagram for that, giving what is the stiffness matrix for stiffness value for individual node. We can reduce that part of the section. All right. Now see, now what we'll do, we'll consider the equilibrium of individual nodes. Okay. Now this is our first node. If you check in the spring, this is the first node. All right. Now for that node, F1 is the force applied in this direction. So for the equilibrium of this one, there has to be an opposite, equal and opposite reaction from the spring due to its nature, that will become the stiffness into the individual extension of the spring. So what will the value become? K1 delta 1 will be equal to F1 directly. Is it not? I have just taken the free body diagram of node 1. Okay. Now node 2, if at all I have to take. Node 2 is associated with node 1 also. I mean the spring with respect to this spring and with respect to this spring. If you check in the figure, first if you drew the figure that is given in the question, you can see that the node 2 is associated with the other two springs also. All right. Now at this particular node, there is no specific external load applied, but at this point we had an F1. All right. And here there was an F2, F3 there. So those are acting in this directions, which is against the equilibrium condition of this part. So for this particular spring, that stiffness into the extension of delta 2 is the reaction that it is giving for this two forces acting in the springs. All right. So the equation will become like this: K2 delta 2 minus the other opposite directions, K1 delta 1 minus K3 delta 3 is equal to 0. Both are equal now. There is no external force acting, so there is no F2. It is 0. It directly indicates K2 delta 2 is equal to K1 delta 1 plus K3 delta 3. Okay. The reason of taking K2 delta 2, I clearly told you when it is about the stiffness matrix, we will have positive nature at the point of, at the node of consideration. All right. Now free body diagram of node 3. If you clearly see, node 3 is also associated with two springs, spring 3 and spring 4. Okay. At that particular node, there is a force acting F3. And there is also a force acting with respect to this spring direction, K4 delta 4, free body diagram. So to resist this, there has to be an equal force acting in the other direction of the spring 3, that is K3 delta 3. So my equation will become K3 delta 3 minus K4 delta 4 is equal to F3. All right. Or K3 delta 3 is equal to K4 delta 4 plus F4. I have just taken K4 delta 4 into this direction. All stiffness in one direction, all forces into other direction. Okay. If at all I take that equation as equation number 2 and make this into matrix form. Please check equation number 2 and equation number 1 if you change that into matrix form, you will get the exact same matrix what we have got here. All right. So this makes the potential energy approach more easy rather than, if at all I have 10 nodes given, I have to keep on drawing free body diagrams for individual nodes. Check what is the stiffness for that, check in which direction the stiffness is working, we have to check what is the external force working on it, and then I can get an equation. All right, if at all simply I go with the potential energy approach, one equation can be formed altogether, and that equation can be partially differentiated once and for all, and it will give you the exact terms. Partial differentiation is easy rather than going for the actual differentiation. So with respect to that variable, if we solve, it will make our work easy. All right, are we clear till now? Any doubts with the
No
problem?
doubts, ma'am.
Anyone? Any more? Any doubts? Guys, you have to answer. Not it will not happen like this. I've kept shouting from 1.5 hours and you people are silent. Did you understand what was taught to you? You have any doubts, you have to come forward.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and
Your S indicates there are doubts or they are not there.
they are not there.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, today we have solved only one problem due to the time constraint. In the next coming class, that is on Friday, we will solve few more problems based on Rayleigh-Ritz method only, and one problem that was in the previous question paper, which was of Rayleigh-Ritz method only. Then we will go for Galerkin's method. All right, and I'll stop the recording for now. I have taken the attendance. Okay.